Every few months, Silicon Valley finds a new word to fight about. This time, the word was slop. That one word from one of the minds behind OpenAI and Tesla Autopilot sent the entire tech world into an argument mode. The interview between Andrej Karpathy and Dwarakesh Patel runs for almost 2.5 hours. And for days, it's been setting off waves across the valley. Now that the dust has settled, it's time to look past the headlines and focus on what actually matters, especially if you're building, deploying, or working with AI right now. Because the controversy wasn't really about what Andre said, it was about who said it and when. When the co founder of OpenAI, one of the engineers behind Tesla Autopilot and early GPT models, calls the current agent slop, that hits differently. Especially in a year where venture capital is pouring billions into agent startups that can barely fill a spreadsheet. His comments didn't just challenge a headline, they collided heads on with the hype cycle. This wasn't a technical debate. It was a reality check. To understand the reaction, you have to understand where Andre is coming from. He's not a Twitter commentator. He's not a prompt tinkerer chasing virality. He's one of the builders who helped define this field. He speaks from the top of the stack, the world of model architecture, data pipelines, and training dynamics. That's very different world from what most of us deal with when we are using today's AI tools in production. And that difference between research and practice, between the lab and the field, is what makes this conversation fascinating. So, what did he actually say? Andre's most quoted line was simple: useful agents are a decade away. His point: today's agents lack three things: memory, robustness, and reliability. He called the current results slop. People latched onto the insult. He was describing capability. Agents today don't inherently remember or learn. Their robustness comes from architecture, not from agents themselves. And in enterprises, they are tethered to business processes, API, workflows, and human oversight. They don't act freely, they live inside the structure. That doesn't make them useless. It means that we are still in engineering phase of intelligence. We pay for reliability with architecture, and the ROI is real, though not magical. These tools don't replace people. They extend them, automating repetitive decisions, coordinating data, and acting as co pilots across processes. Across industries, this is already saving millions in productivity, not billions overnight, but measurable, steady progress. Andre's timeline doesn't diminish that value. It reminds us that architecture is the multiplier. There's a gap between how researchers and builders define working. Researchers aim for autonomy, agents that self correct and persist across tasks. Builders care about outcomes, systems that save time, scale, or reduce the costs now. Both are right, they just operate on different clocks. Andre's world runs on decades. Ours runs on quarters. Confusing the two is what creates the noise. Andre put it best: pre training is like sucking supervision through a straw. In plain English, it's like teaching by grading final exams without ever seeing the homework. You get one score at the end, right or wrong, yes or no, but no feedback along the way. That's why models struggle with nuances. Pre training is a blunt instrument. Billions of examples are needed before a system begins to generalize. And it explains why two people can get completely different answers from the same model. LLMs don't hold a single worldview, they mirror yours. Your phrasing, tone, and even the order of your words all shape which patterns activate. You're not talking to one mind. You're sampling from a distribution of patterns. Even so, it works. If AI stopped evolving today, we would still have a decade of value to scale. The ceiling is higher than the hype admits, and the floor is more stable than critics believe. When Andre said reinforcement learning is terrible, he didn't mean broken. He meant incomplete. Right now, models get feedback only at the end, a simple yes or no. It's like teaching piano by grading the recital, never correcting the rhythm or tone during practice. He's calling for finer step by step feedback or better memory, ways for models to learn not just the results, but reasoning. That's how systems move from imitation to understanding. Most people imagine AGI is an overnight leap, a sudden boom that reshapes everything. Andre doesn't, and I totally agree. He believes AI will blend into the same long curve of automation that's been shaping our world for centuries. So, what does he mean by that? Human innovation is already baked into our baseline economic growth. That steady 2% annual GDP growth that economists talk about, it already includes centuries of breakthrough technologies. The steam engine, electricity, computers, internet, and now the AI. Each one changed our lives dramatically, but none of them caused GDP to suddenly shoot upward forever. Instead, they kept us on roughly the same exponential curve, smooth, continuous, and compounding. So, Andre's argument is simple. We shouldn't expect AGI to cause a new jump in the curve. It will likely extend the existing trajectory, the same 2% pattern just powered by new forms of automation. In other words, AI will blend in, not blow up the chart. That doesn't mean it won't transform how we live or work. It will. It means that on a macroeconomic level, these transformations get observed into larger long-term rhythm of progress. His message isn't pessimistic, it's very grounded. The power of AI lies in continuity, layering new intelligence on top of what already works without breaking it. Andre calls this next decade the integration era. The focus shifts from proving intelligence to proving reliability. The winner won't be those chasing AGI headlines. They will be the ones rewiring industries, building systems that actually scale, and designing governance that work. This is where most of us live, in the messy middle, where intelligence meets infrastructure. Throughout the conversation, Andre keeps coming back to memory. Without it, systems can't learn context or continuity. They can't personalize, they just reset. He's right, memory is the bottleneck. Most teams today are quietly doing memory engineering, deciding what agents remember, where it lives, and who controls it. If we solve durable memory at scale, we unlock the next phase of usefulness. If we don't, agents will stay clever but forgetful. Like a fish that forgets what it saw 2 seconds ago. They will keep swimming in circles, doing impressive things in the moment, but never truly learning from experience. In one of the most fascinating detours, Andre pushed back on a comparison that often shows up in the AI debate. The idea that machine learning is like evolution. Dwarakesh Patel brought up the late Richard Sutton's famous idea, the bitter lesson. The notion that intelligence, whether biological or artificial, always emerges from general purpose learning systems that run long enough to discover their own rules. Andre disagrees. He says that's a wrong metaphor because we are not running nature's experiment. Evolution is a biological optimization process. It takes billions of years and it doesn't optimize for understanding or safety. It optimizes for survival. Brains evolve to replicate, not to align. We don't have that kind of a time or tolerance for randomness. We are not trying to evolve intelligence by accident. We are engineering it on purpose. That's why Andre draws the line so clearly. We are not building animals, we are building tools. It's more than a technical distinction there, it's a philosophical one. If you think of AI as life, you will give it freedom, autonomy, evolution, and goals of its own. If you think of AI as a tool, you will design it for control, reliability, and accountability. That framing changes everything: how we regulate AI, how we measure success, even how we relate to it as creators. Because tools can serve humanity, living things compete with it. DNA may compress life, but we are designing intentional systems. We are not copying biology, we are expressing engineering discipline. When you see AI as a tool, you build for accountability, not on, for value, not vanity. And that distinction between reverence and responsibility might be the most important one in the entire debate. My favorite part of the conversation, what Andre calls the March of Nines. And I might start stealing that phrase. He said every single nine is a constant amount of work. When you get a demo that works 90% of the time, that's just the first nine. Then you need the second nine, a third nine, a fourth, and a fifth. And that's why these things take so long. Self driving cars show this example perfectly. Each additional nine of reliability from 90% to 99.999 costs the same grind. Progress looks sudden from the outside, but it feels endless from the inside. AI will follow the same pattern. Each nine is the price of trust. Be patient, but relentless. Near the end, Andre speaks about Eureka, his Starfleet Academy for technical mastery. He imagines education that's adaptive, personalized, and powered by AI tutors that mirror great teachers, responsive, challenging, and empathetic and precise. He's not just talking about classrooms. He's describing a cultural shift, an evolution in human learning itself, adaptive learning for humans, just as LLMs adapt for machines. And maybe that's the real story. We are evolving too. We are learning in real time how to master these machines. Just as our ancestors learned to outthink the animals that once hunted them, we are learning to guide a new form of intelligence, one that could outrun us if we stopped learning alongside it. The headlines miss the point there. This wasn't a funeral for AI. I believe it was a calibration. Andre's message is simple. Progress takes time, reliability takes architecture, memory takes design. If you're building today, that's your advantage. Assume continuity, design for reliability, treat memory as a strategy, not a patch. Expect progress, not miracles. AI isn't replacing us, it's reflecting us. It's showing where human cognition ends and where our systems begin. This isn't the decade of perfection. It's the decade of agents, imperfect, evolving, and immensely powerful. The decade when we learn to build with intelligence that's still learning itself.